We'll hit record. Hello, welcome to today's Accelerate Founder Insight series. I'm here today with Dave Granfield, founder of Pack to the Future. How are you, Dave?
Good, Rob. Very good, mate.
Fantastic. Great to hear. So, Dave, maybe to kick things off, tell us a little bit about what you're doing at Pack to the Future.
Yeah, sweet, mate. So Pack to the Future is ultimately a software business at the end of the day, a software startup. We are trying to change the way that e-commerce businesses ship their packages. So there's been a lot of discrepancy between actual weights, physical weights, cubic weights, and a lot of e-commerce store merchants have been really losing money in that whole shipping and freight system. The second component of what we're doing is making a sustainable push and trying to get people shipping in a sustainable manner. So our industry's been absolutely ruining the environment with plastic mailer bags and plastic waste, pallet wrap, those sorts of things. So we're trying to really change, one, how people ship in the industry, but two, the damage being done by the industry itself.
Yeah, such an important mission, and certainly one that aligns well with my values as well. And I'm sure it does with multiple people out there. Dave, we've been speaking for quite a while now, known each other for a bit, and I've been following your journey. It hasn't all been chocolates and roses, so it'd be great to understand a little bit about the journey that you've been on and some of the challenges you've faced for founders who are listening today.
Yeah, awesome. So I was advised very early on by a good man called Stefan. So he's from Antler up here in Queensland. He told me to warn me about burnout, and it ultimately happened. I'm about a year into Back to the Future now. Registered the entity about 12 months ago. I've been physically at the coalface building and developing for 6 months now, the software side of things, physically sitting in a warehouse full of the packaging, the hardware component of what we offer. But decided after Blackbird Sunrise conference this year that I was going to enter into the world of trying to get VC funding, and knew I was going into it as a sales and marketing kind of guy and knowing that I had to get 100 no's. And what I wasn't prepared for is just the toll on every no that you get. While it's water off a duck's back, it compounded in that I was pushing harder and harder into trying to get more no's, because more no's get you closer to the next yes, right? And you can, I guess, refine everything that you do every time you get a no. But as a founder trying to self-fund at the moment, I was pushing harder and harder into the business, and I was actually taking my eye off the prize. And that was that I was taking my time off the other revenue generating aspects of my business and my other entities. And I was starting to run out of cash flow just because I went all in on this selfish kind of motive of trying to get funding fast. So probably 8 to 10 weeks into just going all in on the fundraising, it's when Stefan pulled me aside and said, maybe, yeah, let's have a slow down. Let's have a look at what's going on. And I just read a bit of the signals coming from the industry, and especially from the VC world, and realized that I was probably a little bit too premature in the fundraising that I was seeking. And in saying that, 5 years ago, I reckon people would have been jumping all over the opportunity. But in this day and age, the word was traction, right? And everyone wanted to see it live. No one wanted to back an MVP at this stage. 2024, backing an MVP was not going to happen from a founder that they, hadn't exited a multi-million-dollar exit before, kind of thing. So yeah, mate, I burnt out. I took off to Cape York. I spent a couple of weeks in the bush, and I've come back now, kind of reinvigorated, and we're back into this self-funded journey until I get to that traction stage and we start getting on the radar of some really cool contacts that I have made over this period.
Yeah, I think that's such an important message. It's so easy to fall into the trap of pushing yourself harder than you can mentally and physically handle. And I guess one of the key questions on that, Dave, what were some of the indicators that made you realize, hey, I'm getting burnt out here. I need to take a step back.
Yeah, so being self-funded up to date, I've had the blessing, I guess, of a couple of other businesses that were really injecting cash into this journey and this vision and this dream that I've got. And I started seeing a decline in revenue from those other business entities, and it wasn't sustainable to keep going all in on something that wasn't profitable and making money, while the stuff that was paying the mortgage and keeping the lights on in the factory and things were actually paying the bills. The mental fatigue signs for me was obviously lack of sleep and stress. I don't get stressed, right? And I had to ask my wife at one stage, like, why is my stomach feeling like this, right? I don't have an anxious bone in my body. And the financial side of things was starting to make me anxious. And, I had to actually ask what that feeling was, because I'm not used to that feeling, right? I'm a bit of an outgoing kind of guy. And it's like, just warning signs on the fatigue of my body and what was happening. And then I don't know any of the science behind it, but it was kind of time just to reassess, take a break. I couldn't flog a dead horse. I've spoken to probably every single VC in the country who's currently got a fund and willing to spend it, and just took the time to get a lot of really good advice off them and just prepare myself for the next stage of this growth.
Yeah, and I think that's really good insight there. The physical signs of burnout and what they can be, because there's so many and they're varied and they differ per individual, and nobody's immune from burnout. It doesn't matter how well you've gone in the past, how unanxious. I don't even know if that's a word, but if you've never been anxious, it doesn't mean that you can't be a victim of burnout. So I think that's a really important message to get out there. So Dave, you took some time out, and now you're focusing, and you mentioned when we spoke before that you're building that balance between your existing business and the new business. Can you talk us through a little bit about how you're going about achieving that balance, and what your, say, 6 to 12 months goals are now for Pack to the Future?
Yeah, cool. I think balance is probably always going to be a little bit different for me, for most people, in that I don't have a 9 to 5 job. My revenue, my income comes from another business or a few businesses that I've got. So I can really kind of juggle my priorities. And at the moment, I'm writing every day is, I've got Asana and ClickUp and all the magic tools online, but every day I use my paper and I get my notebook and I write down my task list. 100%, mate. Like, I write my task list and it sits here on the left of me, and I make sure that I dedicate enough time to revenue generating entities and the startup, and then different components of the startup. So the marketing and the sales side of the startup, the operational warehousing stock side of the startup, and then obviously the tech side of the startup as well, being a SaaS platform. So I guess the saying that's been in my head since I've got back from my little sabbatical is 1% every day. And as far as I'm concerned, if I can grow the startup 1% every day, I'm doing incrementally better. But also, if I can make improvements in, my, let's call it my day job, I'm incrementally helping that startup get to where it needs to be. So the timeline now is, it was supposed to be a Q4 launch, the SaaS platform. I'll probably stretch that out till next year now. Q4 in the e-commerce world is a crazy hectic time to be launching something new anyway. So I'm probably doing myself a favor and not launching a new bit of technology into e-commerce land in the busiest time of year. So we'll take a break. We're going to look to launch Q1 or Q2 next year, still selling plenty of packaging. So selling the sustainable packaging to bring revenue in for that business. Bringing the development onshore is kind of the next stage. So where I've traditionally built with offshore, and I have for years, I've had quite some success building offshore, but now going through the process of looking for an Australian lead developer and someone that can work in the time zone with me, communicate with our vendors. Some of the big things is, like, we API into every carrier and courier in the country, and trying to have API conversations and finish endpoints and get production APIs live is very hard when you're in different time zones and speaking different languages ultimately. So really, mate, the runway is just consolidate everything into locally, keep on self-funding. And I've just now got a massive Refidex full of investors who love the dream and the vision and what's happening. I've just got to keep them updated in the progress and what happens.
Yeah, fantastic. And we were talking before in that investor journey and some of the learnings that you got out of talking to those investors. And I think there was a realization that you came to there that there was a certain threshold that investors want to see before they really go all in, particularly on a founder, as you said, that hasn't had an exit before. So, what was your learning around what that threshold could look like from your experience?
Yeah, I'll preface that as well with from everything that I had pre-learned before I went into my pitch doc and everything was that obviously traction is something, but like every VC's front of their website says we believe in teams, we believe in pre-startups, we believe in pre-traction, we'll fund, first check. Honestly, bullshit. They will give you the first check if you've already got revenue coming in. And some of the biggest startup, I guess, VC firms in Australia really are just building a marketing funnel to get people into their ecosystem to get the opportunity just to put them on the shelf and come back to them later. That's how I felt. All of these VC firms have first check, pre-revenue, believe in the team, believe in the vision, believe in the industry. Yeah, they do, but they won't back you until you've got the magic traction. And I think the magic traction from the conversations in 2024 is probably about $1 million ARR, which is not a lot for a subscription-based recurring revenue sort of SaaS platform. $83,000 a month is not too hard a goal to get to, but for a lot of smaller startups that are trying to get backing, that VC money is probably a bit out of touch with where people need to be. Some of the learnings were some of the angel syndicates, Brisbane Angels, that the likes of those guys, they are a lot smaller. So they'll be doing check sizes of $25,000, $50,000, which might be great for a small startup with not a very big burn rate. But at the end of the day, I'm a hardware component as well, and I'm building quite a big SaaS platform that relies on a lot of AI. Like my burn rate's about 70 grand a month, and I'm not going to get backing for that burn rate until I've got traction to prove that it's actually going to make its money back.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's really important for founders to understand, funding is an option, but it's not the only option. And if you can manage to bootstrap for as long as you can and get yourself to a good level, then not only are you learning a lot along the way, as you say you have, but you're also setting yourself up for a higher valuation and lower dilution, which is what you want as a founder when you're putting in the hard yards.
Like, and I mentioned this to you, and I've posted about it on LinkedIn. Like, I had a check, $600,000 check available to me from a syndicate of high net worth individuals who believed in what I was doing. $600,000 check that I had to say no to. They ultimately wanted 40% of the business for the privilege of that money, and that would not leave me enough to reward my co-founders, my tech guy, my accounts girl. That would not leave me enough to grow in the future, giving up 40% of the business at the start. And it was the hardest bloody thing I think I've done in business is saying no to that amount of money, which would have given me everything I needed to get live. But the slowing it down and taking, even if it takes me a year longer to get live with the SaaS platform or the SaaS component, if I own 100% of it, I've got, if I own 100%, I can get to that million ARR. The valuation that I've got on that business is a heck of a lot more. If I choose to take investment, and it's my choice, right? If I'm doing $1 million ARR and it's a recurring SaaS platform, good chance I don't need investment.
Yeah. Getting to that first 1 mil is always the slowest challenge. Once you hit the 1 mil, going from 1 mil to 10 mil is less of a challenge. It's still a challenge, but you've got the foundations in place.
100%.
Before we finish up, Dave, is there anything else you'd like to add that you think founders out there might benefit from as an insight that you've picked up?
Get out there and network. I'm 41. I've got a kid, a wife. I live on the Gold Coast. I'm a bit of a lifestyle guy now in that I don't live in a capital city. I'm not Sydney or Melbourne. Get the opportunities to network and just talk to either other founders or VCs, like guys, girls that live and breathe what they do in startup land. A lot of people gave me the time of day and gave me tips and hints, and I've made a lot of good connections through the journey of looking to raise money for Pack to the Future. just ask questions and be a sponge. Like I think I like posting publicly. I haven't for a little while, and I'm going to start that again this week. I like documenting what I'm doing in my own journey, and it seems to be helping people. But network and find out and ask questions of other people as well.
Yeah, and as someone who's come from a sales and marketing background, one of the greatest things you can do as a salesperson, ask questions and listen.
100%.
And the same applies for a founder, right? You just
Ask a question and shut up and listen.
yeah, exactly. Well, Dave, thank you so much for your time today. It's been great talking to you, and there's a lot of nuggets there that I'm sure other founders will benefit from. So thank you so much for coming on today.
Awesome, Rob. Thanks, mate.